Today we're learning to solve simultaneous equations algebraically. What we're going to do in this video here, we're going to use the substitution method. And what I've done is I've just written down a quick process for what we're going to follow as we go through the type of questions. So the question that we've got will be something like find the coordinates of the point of intersection where these two lines cross over, but we're doing it algebraically. Okay, so we've got two equations that we're working with, and the first point that we'll be going for will be to get one of them or both of the equations to say y is equal to. Okay, so we've got this one here that does say y is equal to, so we're fine with that, so we'll just leave it with the one. And what we'll then do is we'll replace y in the other equation with the other. Okay, so I'm going to replace the y, so it's this here that I'm going to replace with whatever it says here. So y is equal to x minus 2. So that x minus 2, what I'd be doing is I'd be taking that and substituting it in there instead of y. So what that would mean is in my equation I'd only have x values and number. So what I would be able to do is to solve and find out what x is using my knowledge of solving equations. The point 4, I would then get my x value and I would substitute it into one of the equations. I'd use that one there because that seems to be the easiest one. And whatever I get for x, I'll take 2 away from it and that'll give me my y value. What I'll then do, because I've used that equation, I'll check in the other. So what I'll do is I'll put in the x value and the y value, and these two, when they're added together, should equal 6. And then what I'll do is I'll check the question and make sure I am going to answer the question correctly. Sometimes the question asks you for what is the value of 2x plus 3y, something like that. These ones here are all going to be asking for coordinates, so I don't really need to check the question. It's always going to be coordinates that I'm going to do in this video here. So let's get started, and the question that we're going to start on is to solve this one that's here just in front of us. Okay, here we go. So first thing we've got then, we're going to be find the coordinates of the point of intersection of these 2 points here. So what I said in the start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of my equations in terms of y equals x. So to start off with, I've got one here already. What I'll do is I'm going to substitute this part here, because I know y is equal to x minus 2. I'm going to substitute that in here, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to call this my equation number 1. I'm going to call this one over here my equation number 2, so it's easy to reference them, okay? So I'm going to substitute, I'll go for y equals x minus 2 into, and I'll just say it's into equation number 1, okay? So I'm just going to do that. So I've got x there, I'm going to put that as if it's in a bracket, and I've got x plus, and that's going to be x minus 2, because I'm replacing y with x minus 2, because I know y equals x minus 2, and that equals 6. So now I've got a kind of reasonably simple equation that I'm going to try and solve. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply that bracket out first. If there's a negative sign there, you need to be careful with that, okay, because that's a plus 1 that's there. If it's a negative sign, it's a negative 1. So let's multiply the bracket out first. So that'll just give me an x minus 2 equals 6. So what we'll do now is we will gather up the x's at this side, 2x, and what I can do here as well is I can get rid of this 2. I don't want that negative 2 at that side there, so I'm going to add 2 on to the left hand side, and if I add 2 on the left, I must add 2 on the right to balance up the equation. And remember what that does, it eliminates that part there. So 2x is equal to 8. So if I've got 2x equals 8, all I'll be doing is dividing both sides by 2. That eliminates the 2's that are here, 2 divided by 2 being 1, so x is equal to 4. So I've got my x value. So the next part in the process, after I've done that, I'm going to substitute that x value. So instead of x, I know it's equal to 4, I'm going to substitute it into the equation up at the top here. Okay, so for here, I'm going to substitute x equals 4 into, and that's going to be equation number 2. So it just makes it easy to reference. So if I put that into equation number 2, I'm going to be starting with y equals x minus 2. So instead of x, I'm replacing it with a 4. 4 take away 2, so I've got a value for y is equal to 2. So that's me got an x coordinate and a y coordinate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a check, okay? So if I do a check at this side here, okay? So what my check is, I'm going to substitute both of these values. Because I've used that equation there to work out what y is, I'm going to use this equation here. So I'm going to check it with x plus y, and what I should do is get that to equal 6. So if I substitute x in there first of all, so I've got a 4. If I take y, I've got y equals 2, so it's a 2. That equals 6, so that's going to be 6 equals 6, so I know I've got the question right. So I'm just going to check and see what I've got to do. In the question it asked me to find the coordinates. So the coordinates are, and it's going to be my x coordinate first, which is 4. My y coordinate next after that, which is 2. Remember, that's the x coordinate and the y coordinate. So there's my final answer. So coordinates are 4, 2. Okay, so I'm going to follow that process. So just a couple of steps in it, and I'm going to do that with the questions as we go forward. They'll get more difficult as we go ahead, okay? Right, here we go. So quite similar. Find the coordinates of the point of intersection of these two equations here. Here's my equation number 1. There's my equation number 2. This is very similar to the first question. Why don't you just freeze the video, try and work it out yourself, check the answer with mine. Right, so this equation here, I'm going to replace this part here. I'm going to try to make that a y equals equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add x onto both sides. Okay, remember that's eliminating the x from there, and that leaves me with y equals, and that's going to be x plus 2. Okay, I'm going to imagine it being in the bracket, or I'll just write it in the bracket, and I'm going to replace over here. Okay, I'm replacing the y with x plus 2 on this side here. So here we go. So I'm going to substitute y equals x plus 2 into, and that's going to be into equation number 1. Okay, so we're starting with x plus y equals 8. I'm going to go for x plus, and it's x plus 2 that's here, instead of y equals 8. I'm going to multiply that bracket out first. Remember, it's just times them by 1, but it won't be all the time. It'll be a bit more difficult sometimes. I'll gather up what I can, so that's 2x. What I'll do is from this side, I'm going to take 2 away, and I'll take 2 away from that side. So what that should do is eliminate this part here, because 2 minus 2 is 0, and 8 minus 2 is 6. So that will be a division by 2 to eliminate the 2 there, and I've got an x on its own, and it equals 3. What I'll do then is I'll do substitute the x value. So I'm going to substitute the x value, the x equals 3 into, and I'm going to just put it into equation number 1. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into that, equation number 2. I'm going to put it into that part that's there. So I'm going to substitute it into y equals x plus 2. Okay, so what we've got is y equals x plus 2. So then y is equal to 3 plus 2. So y is equal to 5. I'm going to just do a check. I can do a mental check if I want. I'm going to use this one here. So I'm using x plus y equals 8. So if I put the x value in, I put the y value in, and that equals 8. Well, I can see that 8 equals 8, and know I've got it right. So I'm going to write down the coordinates. Okay, and when I write the coordinates, that's me finished my answer. So it's going to be 3, 5. That's that one done. Okay, going on to the next one. And we'll just continue and work along and use the same process. So this question looks a wee bit more different. Okay, and let's go ahead and just go ahead with this one. Okay, so equation number 1 at this side, that's equation number 2. I'm going to get one of my equations into the y equals form. So that one's already there, so I'm happy enough with that. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to substitute my equation number 2, which is y equals 3x, because I know that y is equal to 3x, so I'm going to replace the y with 3x. I'm going to substitute that into equation number 1. Okay, so I've got 2x plus y equals 10. I'm going to put instead of y 3x. So 2x plus 3x equals 10. I'm going to gather these together, which will give me 5x is equal to 10. I'll then divide by 5 both sides, remember, to balance it up. That leaves me with x is equal to 2. Once I've got x equals 2, I'm going to substitute that into equation number 2. So I'll substitute x equals 2 into that equation number 2. So that's that there. So we're starting with that. So y is equal to 3, and remember that's a times 2 when they're both together. So that gives me 6. So y equals 6. I'm going to do a check with this equation up here. So I'll do my check. And I've got 2x plus y, and I want the answer to be equal to 10. Okay, so 2x, so 2 times the x value, which is 2, plus the y value, which was 6 that I worked out, and I want it to equal 10. I want that to balance. It's looking like it is going to. I know I've got my right answer. So left-hand side equals right-hand side of the equal sign. Okay, so from there I'll just write my coordinates. Okay, so the coordinates are going to be, let's see, 2 for x, 6 for y. Okay, so that's the coordinates to the point of intersection. Right, similar question. So you could freeze the video and try this one also, okay? Go for that. Right, so equation 1, equation 2. Already got that one in the y equals format. So what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to substitute the 2x into there, and I'm going to work out my answer. Okay, so I'm substituting y equals 2x into equation number 1. Okay, so equation number 1 starts off like this here. I'm going to substitute the 2x into there, so I've got 3x minus 2x is equal to 9. 3x take away 2x will leave me with 1x. So there we go, x equals 9. Once I've worked that out, I'm going to substitute the 9 in there, and I should be able to get an answer for y. I'm sure you can see what that would be equal to. Make sure you write down what you're doing though. Okay, so I'm going to substitute x equals 9 into equation number 2. I'm just going to write it out. It's 2x, y equals 2x. So for there, y is equal to 2 times 9. So y is equal to 18. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and work that out and see if it fits correctly, and it works into equation 1. So my check I'm doing with equation 1. So I've got 3x minus y equals 9. Not getting any marks for this. It's just that as soon as you've done the question, if you do this check, then you know you've got the question right, and you can always repair it if you've made a mistake, if they don't balance. So 3 times x, so 3 times whatever 9 is. Okay, there we go. 9 is the x value. Take away the y value, 18 equals 9. So 3 9s, 27. Take 18 away from that, and what we should get is 9. Good. Balances up again. Okay, so what we'll get for a final answer for the coordinates of the point of intersection are going to be 9, 18. Okay, so reasonably straightforward when we're working through these questions here, but as I say, they'll get a wee bit more difficult as we progress through. Okay, so next question. Right, so what we have here is we have 2 equations. Okay, none of them are in a y equals form. So first thing I want to do is to get it to be y equals. And I could work on any of the equations. I'm going to work on this one here. It looks the easiest one to do that for, okay? So what we'll do is we'll take 2x away from that side, and I'll take 2x away from that side. So what I've left with is, because that's going to eliminate, that'll be y is equal to minus 2x plus 7. This is my equation 1, my equation 2, same type of thing that we're going to be working on. And I'll be using this part here, the one that I've just changed around slightly. So I'm going to substitute that into here, okay, for my y, okay. So I'm going to substitute y is equal to minus 2x plus 7 into, and I'm going to put it into equation number 1. So equation number 1 starts off x plus 2y is equal to 8. Okay, so what I can see here is, instead of y, I'm going to substitute in not just one thing, but I'm going to substitute that there. So I'm going to be thinking of that there, this thing that I'm putting in a bracket, into where y is here. Okay, so I've got x plus, so that makes it a bit easier with that plus sign that's there. It's a 2 that's there, and instead of y, what I'm writing in is minus 2x plus 7. And that all equals 8. Right, so I've got a bracket to multiply out. Okay, so I've got x plus, well, is that going to be, that's plus 2 times a minus 2, so that will give me a minus, so that'll be minus 4x. So you've got to be careful with your signs. And a plus 2 times a plus 7, well, that's going to give me a plus 14. Okay, and that all equals 8. So just part of our solving equations, I'll gather up what I can on this side. So x, take away 4x, that'll give me minus 3x. Okay, and what I'm going to do is on this side, I'm going to take 14 away, and I'll take 14 away from the right hand side to balance up that equation. Remember, the reason why I'm doing that is to eliminate the 14 from that side and basically transfer it to the other. Okay, so 8 take away 14 will give me a minus 6. So I'm going to divide both sides now by the minus 3 or a negative 3. So these will cancel, okay, leaving with x on its own at this side. And on the right hand side, I've got two negatives, so they'll make a positive, and 6 divided by 3 will give me 2. So my x value is 2. What I'll then do from there, I'm going to substitute the x value into one of these equations. So I'm going to just put it into equation number 2. So I'm going to substitute x equals 2 into, and it's going to be into the equation up above, which is y equals, and I'm going to leave it in that form, minus 2x plus 7. So x is equal to 2, so a 2's going in there, so it's minus 2 times 2 plus 7. So if I do minus 2 times 2, that'll give me a minus 4 plus 7, so that gives me a positive 3. So I know that y is equal to 3. Okay, so that's me got my x and my y coordinate. So now I'm going to do a check, and hopefully that works out correctly, okay? So my check is checking in the other equation, the one I didn't use. So that's going to be x plus 2y equals 8. So if I substitute an x value in, which is a 2, and I substitute the y value in, which is a 3, I'd expect that that should equal 8. Let's hope it does. So I've got 2 plus 6 equals 8. Yeah, it does. 8 equals 8. So I know that that's correct. And that's just my check, just to make sure that I've got it right. So my coordinates. So the coordinates are going to be the x value, which was 2, y value, which is 3. So there's my final answer there. So go on to the next question. Right, same type of thing again. I'm going to get the one of the equations. Doesn't matter which one I pick. I'm just seem to be picking the second one each time. I'll pick that one again, okay, and I'm just going to make it into y equals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add on 2x to both sides. If I add 2x on, that gets eliminated. That'll leave me with y is equal to, and that's going to be 2x take away 5. Okay, so that's my new equation 2 that I'm going to be using, this one here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll substitute that. I'm going to substitute y is equal to 2x minus 5 into equation number 1. Okay, equation number 1 starts off as that there. I'm going to substitute that into where y is. So x plus 3 times 2x minus 5 equals 6. Okay, so it's just a substitution and a work through from there. Just try to solve the equation. Multiply the bracket out now. So we've got x plus 6x, and that's going to be take 15 equals 6. Right, so let's gather this up first of all. So x plus 6x is going to give me a 7x. What I'll do here to get the 15 away from the left-hand side, I'll add 15 on, and I'll add 15 on to that side there. So this gets eliminated and leaves me with 21 on the right hand side. From there I'll solve it by dividing both sides by 7. That leaves me with x is equal to 3. So I've got my x value. What I'll then do, substitute my x value into equation number 2, and that will tell me what y is equal to. So I'll substitute x equals 3 into, and that's going to go into y is equal to 2x minus 5. Okay, that's my second equation that I've rearranged. So y is equal to 2 times 3, take away 5. So what I've got is 2 is equal to, so that's going to be 6, take away 5, so y is equal to 1. So let's check and see if that works out properly for us. Okay, and we're going to check it because we've used that one. I've used that equation to work it out. I'm going to check it in the other equation. So my check is going to be x plus 3y equals 6. So my x value, which is a 3, plus 3 times my y value, which is a 1, and I want that to equal 6 to make that balance. If it balances, I've got it right. So that's 3 plus 3 equals 6, so that's going to give me 6 equals 6, and good, I've got it. So that is correct. So I'll just write down my coordinates because that's what I've been asked to do. So my coordinates are going to be x value first, 3, y value next, 1. So 3, 1. Right then, moving ahead. Okay. So next question. So we've got 9 questions here. I'm on question number 7, so they're just getting gradually a bit more difficult as we go forward. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the similar thing as we go ahead. So I put this one in here because I think this is a good one to look at, because I keep saying get it into the form of y is equal to. You don't really need to do that, but that's a good standard method to follow. But if you can see that x equals 2y minus 4, we could substitute that in instead of the x value. So that's what I'm going to do with this question here. I'm going to substitute for x instead of for y. So just a wee bit different, okay? Question number 1. Equation 1, equation 2, right? So I've got x equals 2y minus 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute the x equals 2y minus 4 into equation number 1. So I'm going to write equation 1 first of all, and I'm going to substitute that there instead of x. So instead of x that's here, I'm going to be writing 2y minus 4, 2y minus 4. So here we go. So 2y minus 4 is what x equals, okay? I can put it in a bracket just to keep it neat, but I've not got any multiplier that's there, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And there's the rest of the equation. Now I'm going to solve it. And for this one here, instead of solving for x, I'm going to be solving for y. Right, so what I want to do is I want to get rid of that 4 from that side there. It's a negative 4. And what we're doing is we're adding 4 onto that side. If I add 4 onto that side of the equals, I must add 4 onto the other. Okay? And what I'm going to do at the same time, I'm going to gather up my y values that are here. So 2y plus 4y will give me 6y on this side that's here. And remember, I've eliminated that by adding on 4. And adding on 4 at that side, that will give me 36 at that side there when I add it on. To solve for y, I'm going to divide both sides by 6. That cancels and leaves me with y, or 1y is equal to, and that will give me 6 at that side. So I know that y equals 6. So it's just a bit of the opposite of what we're doing. We're just working out what y is first, and then we'll work out what x is. So what I'll do is I'll substitute, I'm going to substitute the y equals 6 into equation 2 up above, which is that equation there. So once I substitute it in, I should be able to find out what x is equal to. So x is equal to 2 times the 6, take away 4, so that's going to give me, that's going to be 12, take away 4, so x is going to be equal to 8. So there I've got my two values, got y first, got the x second. Let's do a check, make sure it works out. Remember, the check is going to be on the other equation. So I used that one to find out the x value that's there. So I'm going to check it using this one. So x plus 4y, and I want that to equal to 32. If it does, I've got it right. Right, so 8, that will be for x. So remember, just in a different position, plus the value for y. So it's 4 times 6, and I want that to be equal to 32. So I've got 8 plus 24. Good, it works out. So I know there I've got it right. I'll just get my coordinates written down. My coordinates, x value, remember, is that one that's there. Y value is the 6. So 8, 6. Got it. Okay. Right, so 2 more to go. Just gradually getting a bit tougher, but the same type of process that we're just going to follow as we go forward. Okay? So again with this one, I think I'm going to leave it with an x is equal to. Okay, so this equation here, if I just write it round the other way, I can see that x is equal to 4y. Okay, so that's my equation number 2, and this is my equation number 1. And you can see the different formats that we've got of them here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute that there into there and see what I get as an answer. Okay, so I'm substituting x equals 4y into equation number 1. So equation number 1 starts off 4y going in there instead of the x. Okay, so relatively simple, no multiplier there either. Right, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to get rid of this negative 18 or take away 18 by adding 18 on. So that will balance out to 0. If I do that on the left hand side, I must do it also on the right hand side. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to gather up the y values that are here. So that's going to give me a 9y is equal to, and 0 plus 18 gives me 18. To solve, I'm just going to divide by 9 both sides. That'll cancel out, leaving with y is equal to 2. So I've got my y value, and what I'll then do is I'll find my x value. So I'm going to substitute the value that I've got for y, which is 2, so y equals 2, into this equation that's up above. So that's going to be that x is equal to 4y. So x is equal to 4 times whatever I worked out for y, which was 2, so x is equal to 8. I'm going to do my check, and I'm going to use the other equation that I've not used. So I didn't use that one to find out what the 8 was, the last part. So I'll go for that. So I'm going to check it with 5y plus x minus 18 equals 0. So I'm hoping that this all balances out. So this side here should equal 18. So 5 times y, okay? So 5 times 2, there's my y value, plus the 8 that's here, okay, for x. Take away 18 should equal 0. So that'll give me 10 plus 8 minus 18 equals 0. If I gather these together, first of all, that gives me 18 take away 18. Yeah, got it. So 18 take away 18 is 0 equals 0. I know I've got my answer right there. Okay then, so write down the point of intersection. So let's go for POI this time, okay? The coordinates of the point of intersection are going to be x coordinate of 8, y value of 2. Done. Last question, okay? And maybe the most difficult one that's here. So we'll go for that one. Here we are. I'll get some paper at the bottom. Right, here we go. So what we've got is we've got to find the coordinates of the point of intersection of these two straight lines. So these ones here are a wee bit kind of awkward for us. We don't have a simple x or a simple y value coming out, but we can just work that one through quite straightforward again. Okay, I'm going to do the same type of thing just to keep it kind of the way that we've been working it. So there's my first equation, and there's my second equation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write this equation in terms of y is equal to. Okay, so I'll do it that way and we'll see how things work out. Okay, so let's see. First thing I want to do is I want to add on 4x to that side, and I want to add on 4 to this side. So on the right hand side, I'm going to add on 4x, and I'm going to add on 4. And what that should do is eliminate that. So it leaves me with 3y is equal to, and that gets eliminated also, so that leaves with 4x plus 4. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to divide both sides by the 3. Okay, so I'm dividing both sides by 3. Okay, that gets eliminated, and I'm going to just leave this equation like this. So it's 4x plus 4 all divided by 3. I'm going to leave it like that. That's what I'm going to start with, and I'm going to substitute that into this equation up here. So let's try and do that. So what I've got here is I'm going to substitute y is equal to, so this is quite an awkward one, but same process, substitute that into equation number 1. Okay, so what I've got is I've got 5y plus 2x take 11 equals 0. So that's going to be substituted in here. So I've got 5 times, and that's 4x plus 4 all over 3. Okay, and I've got plus 2x take 11 equals 0. Right, so it's starting to look a wee bit more awkward. So at this stage here, what I'd like to do is just to get rid of the fraction part of it. To get rid of that 3 that's there, what I'd like to do is to multiply everything by 3. So what I'll do is I'll times by 3 here. So this one here will be times by 3. I'm going to times this part here by 3. And I'm going to times this part here by 3. I'm also going to times the other side by 3 as well, but it won't make much of a difference when we work this one out. So remember, the reason why I'm multiplying by 3 is so that these 3's cancel out. So they cancel out, and that leaves me with 5 with a bracket 4x plus 4. So I'm not multiplying that out yet. 3 times the 2x is going to give me a plus 6x. 3 times negative 11 will give me negative 33. And 3 times nothing is nothing. Okay, so a bit more complicated. That's the only thing. We multiply out the bracket now, and then we solve for x. So that'll give me 20x plus 20 plus 6x take 33 equals 0. Now I want to get the numbers on the right hand side and the lettered items on the left. So I'm going to take 20 from that side, and I'm going to add 33. There. So what that will do is it will eliminate that, it'll eliminate that. I'm going to gather these up at the same time, so that gives me 26x is equal to, and on the right hand side what I'll be doing is I'll be doing the same thing. I'm taking 20 away and adding on 33. So that's going to give me negative 20 plus 33, well that will give me 13 as an answer on the right hand side. So I'm going to divide both sides by 26. And hopefully you can see what we're doing here. That leaves me with x is equal to 13 over 26. Well, that simplifies down to a half, or 0.5. I'm going to use the half value when I work the rest of this out. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to find out what my y coordinate is going to be. So I'm going to substitute x equals a half into, and I'm going to just substitute it into that equation that's up there. So that's the 4x plus 4 all divided by 3. So what I've got here is a half going in here, so that's 4 times a half plus 4 all over 3, right? So what we've got is 4 times a half is just 2, or a half of 4 is 2, plus 4 all divided by 3. So that gives me 6 divided by 3. So that gives me a y coordinate of 2. Right, so I'm going to do a check. So I'm going to check that out first of all and make sure that works, because that was quite a complicated question that was there. And the way I'm going to check it is with this top equation that's here on the right hand side. So we've got 5y plus 2x take 11 equals 0. So I want this to balance to 0. So 5 times 2, which is my y coordinate, plus 2 times a half, which is my x coordinate, take 11 equals 0. So there we go. So 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times a half, or a half of 2, whichever way you think of that, that's going to be 1. Take 11 equals 0. So from there, what I've got is 11 take away 11 equals 0. It does. So good. I know I've got that right. So my coordinates on this one, coordinates are going to be, and that's my point of intersection. So that value is going to be x value first, which is a half. I'll just leave it as the fraction, and 2 for the y coordinate. And that would be that complete. So all I've been doing there is just been following through with solving the simultaneous equations by substituting something in, and always substituting into one of the equations with the other equation. Replacing the y with one of the others, solving for x, finding the x value, or as you've seen, finding the y value first, finding the other value, checking it out, and making sure I write down my solution. So that's this video complete. This is all about substituting. to solve simultaneous equations. And what we'll be doing is, in another video, we'll be looking at an elimination method to try to solve simultaneous equations. So that's us complete for just now.